Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our presentation today on setting up for your first long rappels. Really appreciated being here. Stay till the end because we're going to be giving away a shirt for the Coalition of American Canyoneers shirt. So stay till the end for that. We are also recording, so I put everybody on mute. And thank you for being here. These are free presentation. The Coalition of American Canyoneers is free to join. We are a nonprofit that focuses on access mostly. We want to make sure we keep our canyons open. We can't even argue about bolts if the canyons aren't open. You can't get there. So just keeping access open, keeping education going. And we've been so lucky to have so many of these different Zooms from SARS, different people that are coming in and talking, and we've learned so much. So thank you for being here and learning. And we have a really exciting presenter today. I don't normally have notes, but this guy needs notes, you know? This presenter did their first canyon in 1999, and I mathed, that's 27 years ago, if you can believe that. And before that, he had 25 years into climbing before he even got into canyoneering. And he started Imlay Canyon Gear with the Happy Hooker. If anybody remembers or has one of those, please comment below. It was a 3-inch hook on an 11-foot pole that turns out it worked really well for Imlay. And before Imlay, he worked at Black Diamond for 12 years as a product designer. And that's just what this guy does. He designs and builds things and improves, a true passion for innovation and making things work. And as Imlay Canyon Gear grew, he made gear for himself and for friends, and then for Zion Adventure Company. And from there, we have Imlay Canyon Gear. And while our presenter today, the accomplishments are at a great length of what he has done, the experience that he's had. So many of us are lucky to call him friend. He has a true passion for the outdoors and helps in many nonprofits. He's always willing to talk with the beginner, debate, and just be a friend. And we're really happy to have him here today. Tom considers his best innovations to be the pot shot and the fiddlestick. So without further ado, let's welcome our friend Tom.
Thank you for that.
So also we are doing some videos in this, so be patient as we switch back and forth. And Tom, I'm going to ask you to unmute as we get going. There we go.
Okay, there we go.
We're doing it.
Okay, well, this is a pretty big outline here. There's a lot of things to go over. Um, and a lot of this this is really oriented towards preparing people for their first really big rappel. And then you kind of, once you have that down, you can kind of maybe already know the things you need to know. So, wonder if I can make myself big on my own thing. View, speaker. That's me. I'm the speaker. No, it doesn't do that. Okay. Okay. Well, um, so what we're going to talk about, first we're going to talk about long rappels, and so the first question is, what makes long rappels different than short rappels? So, in addition to obviously being longer, there tends to be a lot more adrenaline and fear when you're standing on the top of a 300-foot drop. Technically, what makes the big difference is you've got 300 feet of rope hanging below you, at least at the start. And then as you move down, the rope weight gets less and less, so that you need to adjust the friction that you have on your device about every 100 feet or so, generally. Also, you get fatigued. So your body gets fatigued from trying to hold yourself up in a sitting position. Your hands get fatigued and also get heated up from the rope passing through it. And also your mind gets fatigued if you're under that stress for some period of time. So one way to overcome these fears and fatigues is to be trained, to be well trained. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. is how you prepare for and get trained to do your first big rappel. And uh, so the first thing to realize is that rappelling generally involves a rope and some devices. And the rope and the device make a system. And there are appropriate and inappropriate systems for using on long rappels. So back in the day, we did heaps using two ATCs or one ATC and a munter hitch. Uh, Thankfully, we don't need to do that anymore because we have devices, many devices that have adjustment that you can make while you are hanging on the rope. This is a Resonator 8000. Not my preferred choice. Here's some other examples of devices that allow you to make adjustments while you're in the air. This is the squirrel over here, and this is the hoodoo. There's a couple that I don't have my hands on here, like from Glacier Black has a couple things. And of course, my favorite is the Critter, which has bought me my white Tacoma out in the driveway. Um, but it's also good to realize that the rope makes a big difference. So I've got a bunch of ropes here. I doubt you can really see them, but each rope performs a little differently. And the goal of our preparation here, I have a elaborate way of preparing for this. The goal of the preparation is to understand the rope that you're going to use in the condition that you're going to use it and the device that you're going to use, how those work together at various rope weights when the rope is hanging below you. I actually have a video here for the Critter, and let's go ahead and run that. So this is the Critter device that we make. I like to have it on my rock climbing harness here with an extra beaner in it. So it lies out flat like this, so I can use all the features. And here's how you set it up. You first get the rope on your dominant side. You put a bite through the big loop and into the beaner, and you immediately lock that. And then there's a couple different settings depending upon your weight and if the rappel is vertical, you're going to need some more friction. If the rope is thin like this one, this is a slither and it's pretty new, so it's pretty fast. So this is the 0 setting. If I weighed 120 pounds, this would be great, but I don't weigh 120 pounds, haven't for quite some time. This is one leg. That's what I usually use, but this rope being new is faster than a Canyon Fire, and the well broken in slither is also slower. So I'm going to put this around the second leg. So this would be the normal setting for people that weigh up to about 200 pounds, whereas the one would be for people up to about 160 pounds. The cool thing about the Critter is when you're rappelling, if you need more friction, you can go like this and you get half a setting of more friction, which is usually just the right amount. Now, the last rappel we did was big vertical rappel, and I did this. I didn't have enough friction, so I went to that. And then again, I didn't have enough friction, so I went to that. And that ended up being perfect for going down. So I will start here. And first thing you usually do is hook up and make sure that you're hooked up to the right side of the rope and everything. Okay. Then I can take my safety off here, stow that away. And now I'm ready to go.
Since I'm going down first, I don't have the bottom belay. If I was, I would tell them on rope. And then I go down here over the edge. And let's put a little more. Okay.
Back to you, Tom.
Okay. Is everybody muted? Well,
Yep.
any questions about that? It's not each of these various devices is going to work a little differently. And the idea is to get very, very familiar with it before you get to the big one. And often people are like, well, I'm doing a big rappel. I need to get a new rappel device. Yeah, well, you need to do that and then go out and use it a couple times and get on it. It's also good to, well, I have this elaborate way of getting ready, but the important thing is to get ready using the rope that you plan to use on the big rappel. It helps if it's exactly the same rope, but it could be just the same model in about the same condition. So let's see. Oh, some things you ought to do kind of at home before you are going off on a big rappel. Let's see. Choose rope and device and practice with those and become proficient. Uh, uh, it's a really good idea to practice ascending and then converting to rappel and then converting back to ascending, which are all important skills to have. On a big rappel, like a 300-foot rappel, you're basically on your own. It's unlikely that someone can come down and rescue you. You get your hair stuck in there, you get freaked out. You're on your own. It's up to you to solve things. Now, it is possible if you have two 300-foot ropes to set up a contingency anchor, but I don't see people doing that for whatever reasons. One thing I've noted, it's very important to measure the length of the rope you're going to use. Ropes shrink with use, and you don't want to end up in the air 20 feet off the ground. One time I was going to go do heaps and I pulled out a 300-foot rope. I was like, oh, this is great. Yeah, good thing I already have one. And then at the last minute, I decided to measure it and it was 270 feet long, which would have left me 15 or 20 feet off the ground when you get to the bottom, or would have left the first person down that far. And that would have been very awkward. You also want to inspect your gear. It can be a good time to put a new harness together, use new gloves, maybe make sure your helmet is all together, or that you have your ascending gear in good shape. So let's see, there were a couple questions there.
Someone asked what's your way to measure a rope, Tom?
Well, I have rope measuring things, but you can also take a 100-foot tape measure that you buy at Home Depot and tie the rope to one end and run it out 100 feet and put a stake in the ground and then measure that several times, figure out how long it is. It is very handy now to have a rope measuring device sitting right here on this table. Let's see, was there another question?
I do think that the one of the questions I'm seeing a particular well devices or devices you're going to address. We have more videos coming, so some of these will be addressed. So maybe I can ask you the ones that I know are not going to be addressed in the video.
Well, I don't really address that elsewhere, but
Okay.
I like the critter and I like the squirrel. If I was doing heaps, I probably use the critter for every rappel except for the last one, and I'd bring a squirrel just to use on the last one. The squirrel has this tail that has a lot of choices. You can get the friction perfect basically all the time. But one thing I've noticed on thin ropes is on that heaps rappel, I have run out of opportunities to add friction. So now I've started going to humongous mode so that I can start out with more friction and still have lots of options. Um, uh, Not too surprisingly, I don't use other rappel devices all that much. But I understand other people like other things, and it's just it needs to be in the class where you can add friction when you're hanging from it. So, uh, hoodoo, um, resonator, uh, the pelotona, and the pivot from Glacier Black. I think that's about it. In Europe, there seem to be about 800 different rappel devices, all of which are somewhat variations on things, eights with arms and legs and things sticking off of them, horns. Um, but the most important thing is that you understand how to use that device. Chelsea asks also what technically qualifies as a longer rappel, 200 plus, 300 plus. I basically say any rappel over 200 feet. Now, if 100 feet of that is a slab, that's a little different. That makes it a whole lot easier. We did one the other day that was 208, and part of it was slabby, so that wasn't really a long rappel. But once you get over 240, 250, especially if it's free hanging, that's really what we're talking about here. Okay, anyway. Okay, so our first thing, I have this method of practicing rappel with your rope and your device, simulating the weight of the rope below you at 300, at 200, and at 100. So that's what we have a long video of. So let's go ahead to part one.
Tom here, and we are doing a setup to get ready to do a 300-foot rappel. We have Joe behind the camera there. Say hi, Joe. Hello. And so we are at our local practice ball, and we're actually going to go quite a bit higher, but I wanted to show you the setup at the bottom. So what we're trying to do is set up a rope so we can feel how your rappel device interacts with the rope at when you have at various heights on the 300-foot rappel. So when you start out the big rappel, at the top, you have 300 feet of rope hanging below you, which means there's a lot of weight hanging, which acts as a bottom blade, basically. So you need to set it yourself up with less friction. As you move down the rope, that weight comes off. And you need to add friction about every 100 feet or so. So what we're setting up here is, this is a 300-foot rope that's in 3 segments. So this is 100 feet hanging on the rope, and the extra is in this bag. And then we're going to add another 100 feet. Then we're going to add another 100 feet. So now when I'm up there and we are we start the rappel, it's like we're starting a 300-foot rappel. And I'll see how that feels on my device. And then at some point, I'll say, release the Kraken. And we will drop 100 feet of rope. So now we are at the 100 feet from the top, 200 feet from the bottom point, and we can feel how that feels with our device, how much friction we need to add. And then we'll come down a little further and we'll release the Kraken again, and the person on the ground will drop the other bag, and now we're just have our standard 100 feet. So we can see how the rappel device works with that. So that's what we're going to do here. Gives ourselves the chance to see on the slither rope what settings we're going to want to use on our rappel device. Okay, here I am.
Okay.
I got it.
So there was something I missed before, which was rope talk. So canyoneering ropes, at least in the US, tend to be static, as in truly static. What the industry, cavers, other Europeans call static is kind of a soft static. So it has some bounce to it. Here in the US, we tend to like ropes that are truly static. My polyester ropes are truly static. The Canyon Pro, all these Dyneema core ropes are truly static. And that makes them rappel really nicely. If you're using climbing ropes, or you're using European canyon ropes, which are semi-static, you tend to get a fair amount of bounce in them, which can definitely be a problem on these big rappels. So got to use a real canyoneering rope for this. Climbing ropes are probably the least usable in this context because they're just so stretchy. So that's the setup for this weight adjustment test. I'm thinking that was pretty clear what we were doing there. So let's go ahead and climb up the rungs of that Via Ferrata up here in Orderville and get on to the next thing, which is preparing to start down the rappel.
I'm at the top of this 300-foot rappel. And just a few things about setting up for a big rappel. A couple things I like to do. I like to extend my device more than I have it. So I will actually add 2 beaners so that my rappel device is up here, which makes it easier for me to hold on and keep myself upright. Gives me better leverage than holding on down here. Gives me more choices. Sometimes I can wrap my arm around it. And I'm actually, that's it. I'm going to be rappelling left-handed here because that's the way the rope worked out. So you'll see me fumbling quite a bit. So here I am. Okay, I'm locked in. The other thing, which is a good idea that I got from caving, cavers like to have a rope grab on a leash ready to go. So if they're rappelling, we are rappelling, and we start to have a problem we need to deal with. Sometimes there's a knot in the rope. Saw that recently, that we can just be holding on and pull this out, put it on the rope, and now we're locked off. So we're also using a rappel device that's easy to lock off. So, but this gets me secure really fast. Over here now, I also have my other rope grab here for my other part of my ascending kit. And I have 3 of these yellow slings, which is my foot loop for my ascending kit. And now I am ready to go. And I'm the first person down. I don't have a bottom belay. Very important to have a bottom belay for everybody but the first person. Even for, you know, the pros, the gods of canyoneering.
Okay. Let's see. Someone asked whether you could just extend with your PAS or your other kind of tether. I like extending with carabiners that lock. Someone asked about chains of carabiners because they're iffy. They're iffy if they're not locking carabiners. They're fine if they're locking ones, the ones we use in canyoneering. And of course, I'm ready to switch to ascending and then rappel, whatever. So the next question was hang the pack or not hanging the pack. I'm a person who likes to hang their pack. Some people don't. If the pack doesn't weigh anything, then there's really not much point in hanging the pack. But the other thing is that when you hang the pack, you need to make sure it's not going to tangle with the rope. So I know many times I've started down with the pack dangling between my legs, and then I spin or something, and the rope and the pack swings around and gets wrapped around the rope, and it makes a big mess. So these days, when I do that, I take the pack and I put it outside my left side so that it's further away from my pack and from my rappelling side, and so that it won't get tangled with that. Not sure I had any other questions on that. I see I have there's 13 new. We have some other questions that I'm going to cover at the end, like gloves. Someone asked, do Imlay ropes stretch back when they're weighted? And the answer is, I don't think so. I think it's a permanent shrinkage. He says CE4Y ropes do. I kind of doubt that because our slither, which is a dynamic core, also does not return to length when you stretch it. So, there are different constructions and maybe some other ropes do, but I'm pretty sure mine shrink and then keep shrinking. So it's good to measure things. We have how do you manage heat on your hands? I'll cover this. I like wearing gloves, but I like not depending on the gloves. So I am a person who likes to rappel with almost no hand on the rope. So I set my friction so that I can almost let go. Other people like to do it other ways. I have to tell you that there are times when the gloves have really saved me because I did not set enough friction and I used a lot of glove and I don't feel bad about it. But you can use up a set of, well, the right hand of gloves in one rappel. I sell gloves that are these nitro coated garden gloves that I really like, because they seem to have just the right amount of stick and just right amount of heft. But other people have other gloves they like. I don't like leather because it changes when it gets wet and it's expensive and high maintenance. We will talk about fireman belays down at the bottom. There's a question about using a third hand backup. Third hand is largely a personal choice. My personal choice is no. I used it for 200 days guiding with Zion Adventure Company, so I understand it really well. Even when all the factors are under control, it is not a reliable backup system. I think people do better concentrating on what they're doing rather than concentrating on this complicated and not entirely effective backup system. The other thing is on long rappels, when it heats up, it can change how sticky it is. And there's certainly cases where people have gotten their third hand stuck and have not been able to get out of it on their own. So either they're lowered or someone comes down and helps them. But if you want to use a third hand, do it, but be careful with it. I've also met some people that were very used to using third hands, and when they rappel without it, they don't really realize and they let go of the rope. So yeah, I think it's a bad habit to get into. I think you'd do better to concentrate on what you're doing. Do ladder descenders have any use in canyons? I think we're talking about like a rack. If I was going for more than 300 feet, more than 350, I would use a rack because my caver friend gave me a rack and it worked really great on this long rappel we did, which was a little more than that. It was about 820 feet, and it worked perfect. I was amazed. This says lots of cavers wear the chest harness up here so they can switch to ascending quickly, and a lot of people in wet canyons do that. Highly trained waterfall canyoneers do that because they may have to change to ascending while under a waterfall, and they may need to do it really quick. I don't, it's not for me. Might be for you. I can see how it makes sense, but doesn't work for me. We're not going to talk about abrasion points on the crossing the lake. Okay. Let's move on. Where are we on the video? Let's see. Okay, fire up the video.
You definitely need a bottom belay on long rappels. So, okay, I'm set to go. Okay, here I am trying again. I've got the one leg on this, the next setting up, and that feels pretty good. I like to have it so that basically when I'm stopped, I barely need to hold on to the rope. But people have a lot of preferences, and this is at the top of the rappel. So as I move down, it'll get going a little faster. So this is pretty good. That's a really nice setting right here. One thing I wanted to point out is if you set your friction too high at the start, which is pretty common because people are scared, then that means you need to do this. And that's called jacking. And that is not a good thing. You go blind. So that you really don't want to do because what's happening up there is that the rope is crossing an edge somewhere and you're jerking it on that edge. So that can result in very bad things. So now I've figured out what I want here. And I'm going to go down. And I think I understand this part. So we're ready for the next thing to do, which means release the Kraken. So normally on this rope with this device, I would start with one leg, but I have that 300 feet of rope hanging below me, which means it has a lot of weight. And as it turns out, I'm feeling like I'm a little light on this. So at this point, I would probably stop and pull up and change my setting. So I could do that by taking my rope grab and doing that. Or I can also add friction by going up on that. But notice how awkward that is when you have all that weight hanging on you. And this is a lightweight rope, so it has a lot less weight than a lot of ropes. But now I'm at a good level. Yeah, that's pretty good for 300 feet. Okay, that feels good. And at that point, I would say, okay, I'll figure out what setting I want. Actually, I really want the setting with starting with the one leg, and let's see how that works. So since we're right next to this via ferrata, I'm going to step over here. Okay, so now we have released one.
Okay. And that was basically two segments that were the same thing but different. Just in case anyone was confused. That's what was going on there. Let's see. Okay, let's talk about bottom blaze. So first person down obviously doesn't get a bottom blade. They need to be really careful and really on top of things. So choose that person carefully. Um, some people have asked, and there was an accident in Zion last year where the bottom blade did not work. Do bottom blades work on long rappels? Well, it helps if the rope is static, so that when you apply force down at the bottom, the force gets up to the rappel device quickly. Dynamic ropes can be really bad that way. Yes, bottom blades work even when you're a long way away. That accident in Heaps was also that that person was using a Hydrobot device, which is an inline device that's really made for fat ropes, for 10 millimeter European ropes. And so the bottom belay on that didn't help because the rope was going all over the place and the bottom belayer was unable to grab the rope and apply force to it. And in fact, they burned their hands pretty bad trying to do that. It also didn't help that they started the bottom belay when the person had already fallen and picked up a lot of speed. But you know, in my group, when we do big rappels, everybody gets a bottom belay. It's just not worth it. I tell you, I know that if my friend cratered and I could have stopped him, that would ruin my life. So, you know, from a selfish point of view, it's like I don't want to have that on me. So, okay. Oh, someone asked about sometimes it's good to rappel with the bag on a long rappel and on other rappels. But rappelling out of the bag is especially problematic because the rope comes out of the bag in twists, and those twists try and jump out of your hands. So a good way to do that is to go ahead and pull 20 or 30 feet of rope out of the bag and let it dangle below you, and then rappel down to that, and then do that again. I like to not drop the bag until I have a clear shot to the ground so that I know what's going to happen to it. Things like that second rappel in heaps, 220 feet down a slab, you just want to carry the bag the whole way because it could go through various bushes and get stuck. So, okay, what's next? Okay, so in the video, we have now released the Kraken finally. I think Joe ran down to do that. Go ahead, let's hit it.
One Kraken, and here's the setting I was on, which was one leg, and it still seems to be working. Now, as you go down, you'll find there's a point at which the setting gets a little on the light side. You have to hold on a little more, and we're going to add the arm, which is on this device, on the critter. That's our next place to add friction, which is usually about a half a setting. And now I'm back to being pretty much hands-free. So maybe this was a little soon. Maybe I don't need to do that at 100 feet down. Maybe I would go a little further until it starts feeling a little on the loose side. Okay. Then I would add that in and see that I can still move slowly down the road smoothly avoid the big ledge and down. Maybe I'll release my own Kraken this time. Now, when we get down to the bottom here and I'm on that last 100 feet, it's a lot like almost all the rappels that you've done, except that at that point your hands are tired and you probably want more friction than you usually have for a 100-foot or so rappel. So be sure to be conscious of that. Okay, now I'm on my
Okay. A little thing about adjusting your friction. It's good to do it too soon rather than too late. We've had a lot of accidents in Engelstead where people go down and they get they're too loose and they're going too fast, and then it's too late. They can't stop. So you want to stay in control the whole time to the point where you can stop. That's the nice thing about all these adjustable kind of descending devices is you can tie them off really quickly. Just throw some wraps around and then you can shake out or get your mind back together again. I find myself often going to that extra arm or going up a level and realizing, okay, I don't need to do that quite yet, but it'll be there when I need it. Let's see. I haven't seen any questions coming in on the chat thing. But okay, let's I think we're ready to finish that. Yeah.
the last 100 feet. Man, it's so near. And this is sometimes where people plummet. We do not want to plummet. So we want to stay focused. We're down near the bottom. Now, this is the setting I had. And how's that working at the moment? It's working really well. This is a broken in slither rope. A brand new slither rope is super fast, but it breaks in reasonably quickly. you really want to do this with the rope that you plan on using because it makes a huge difference. But if I needed more, here I am, I've got one leg and one arm. But if I needed more, the next place I would go to, I could go like this and that. That's worked for me before. That worked with a brand new slither at about this height. You could also go under there and try and hold it out, but that's usually really annoying. Some other things you can do is you can bring it around and run it on your butt like this. The saying is thumb in butt. That's pretty old school. That's more like double climbing ropes and wacko devices that aren't adjustable. Or you could stop, get your device up here and get off of it, and I could go to two legs if I needed to. And all those you can do while hanging free. Now, it's best if you can do this practice on an overhanging wall, so you're hanging in the air when you do this. But we found this practice wall from Rome in Orville. They let us use this, and it's not overhanging. There may be an overhanging part up there, but I didn't really want to go up there. But it's always good to have other ways to add more friction. Now, last time I did a long free rappel, I had these knee pads that I make on, and I was able to get the rope squeezed between my knee pads to add some friction. You can also, an old climber thing when you get in trouble is take the rope and wrap it around your leg. That's really meant as a quick way to stop. Not really a way to add friction, could be super painful. Or other things. And if I had more gear, boy, it sure helps to have a lot of beaners when you're doing this. I like having all these beaners here. You could, you need to have plans. That's what you need to do. You got to have things figured out, ways to add friction. But right now, this is working pretty good for me. So I think we're going to go down to the ground, which is 100 feet away. Oh my God. So that's where we are. Let's get this going again. Okay. Come on, smooth, smooth, baby, smooth. Make it smooth. It must be the left-handed thing.
Okay. So, oh, there we go. Were you thinking about adding another carabiner to add friction? Yes. So back before we had these fancy devices, let's see if I can pull this off. So the way I like to do it is to clip a beaner in, not here, but over here on this leg loop. So that's called the opposite side leg loop. And then this goes in here. And this comes over here. So what that means is that you can then control the friction that gives you by twisting your hips. So if you need to stop, you can twist this way. Try down a little more. There we go. So you can twist this way so the rope gets more of your body, or twist this way to let it more free form. The problem with that is when you're actually on a rappel, you can't really move this over to the carabiner. So you've got to move the carabiner to the rope. So that means you twist over like this. Whoa! And put that in there. And now you have more friction. So that's what we used to do. That would be my ultimate safety thing. It helps if you have this beaner there already, so you don't have to monkey with it. And it may or may not work with these devices, which have a lot going on. So, okay. Rope retrieval considerations for extended rappels. Okay, so I have a few things which I describe as ground duties. So there are some duties that the people on the ground need to be doing. The first is an attentive bottom belay. And to me, that means that each person gets to belay the person that is following them. People should not be stuck bottom belaying because you're looking up the whole time and you're doing attention. So bottom belay one person and then get that person to bottom belay the next person. There's usually a lot of time on these long rappels getting everybody down, so people can be eating snacks and drinking water and things like that. Very important on any rappel, but especially on these long ones, is to be out of the fall zone. Sometimes the best place to be is inside. So going closer to the cliff if it's overhanging or off to the side. Going out from the bottom, away from the bottom is usually not a good idea because if a rock comes down, it's going to bounce that way most likely. So we're worried about rocks, but we're also worried about people dropping things off of their packs. Getting hit from a water bottle at 300 feet is not going to be pleasant. A good thing the bottom belayers can do is they can keep people from spinning. So if often on these rappels, you end up spinning. And sometimes it's so unpleasant that you almost throw up, that kind of spinning. But a bottom belayer can be offline at the bottom at a bit of an angle and apply a little bit of tension, and that stops the spinning. At some point there's going to be a pull side coming down, and that should be kept way away from the rappel line. There's a lot of cases where the pull line is right next to the rappel line, and then people spin, and then it's all twisted up and makes it really hard to retrieve. Sometimes it makes it hard for people to get down the rappel because they're getting stuck in the twisting between the two. And then you can also help with the spin if you take the rope bag that's at the bottom and put what's on the ground at the bottom in the rope bag and make a little knot and clip it to the rope so that rope bag is off the ground and can spin. Every time people rappel, it puts a torque in the rope. It varies with the device and with the rope, but there are very few rappels, unless you're using racks, that do not produce a twist in the rope. So it's good to hang it so that those twists can spin out at the bottom there. And you might have to take that out so the person can actually get to the ground. That would be polite. Do you like to use a radio walkie-talkie? Yes, radios are great. Whistles are great. Generally, 2 radios is enough, one at the top and one at the bottom. Very important to set up your whistle signals and make sure that people hear the off-rope whistle, the 2 whistles for off-rope. So when you're at the top and you hear that whistle, you should give a whistle to make it clear that you heard it. I don't know how many times I've been on these long rappels and people at the top are waiting for someone to get off rope, and the person at the bottom got off rope 10 minutes ago and is wandering around eating sandwiches and drinking water. So, these things take a long time. The long rappels take a long time. Even with experienced people, they take a long time. So it's good to be expeditious and get it done. If the rope does get twisted, would you have to ascend to fix the twist? Well, usually you can see it from the bottom and untwist it. But really the thing to do is not get the pull side and the rappel side twisted together. So I like tossing down the pull side, or the next person going can rappel down part way and then drop it when they have a clear view of the bottom and can see where everybody is. And then like the one in heaps, we actually take that pull side and walk it about 40 feet off to the side and put a rock on it so that it stays out of the way. Let's see. Someone asked about what do you do when the start of the rappel is really hard to get over a sharp edge? And the answer is no, you don't do that. If the rope goes up over a 90-degree edge, then you're not going to be able to retrieve it. So big rappels are not rigged that way. You almost always need to find a way to have the rigging point up high, which is why sometimes big rappels are bolted even when the rest of the canyon is not. So, but otherwise, what would you do? Well, you'd do a soft start getting over the edge, and even with your extended rappel device, you can hopefully, if you're good at soft starts, you can get over the edge without getting trapped there. So, okay, now we need some more questions. Do we have more questions?
Yeah, post your questions below and we can get those answered for you before we wrap up. It's been such a great presentation. Well, it looks like we got one.
What do you mean soft start? Well, soft start is a technique we use in the desert. Very important on some of the not incredibly strong anchors that we use. And that means it varies from place to place, but the idea is that you get your weight onto the rope without applying more than your body weight to the rope. So you kind of do a baseball slide over the edge, or a lot of it involves sitting on the edge and then kind of rolling off and getting onto the rope. But really, the whole idea of a soft start is to not apply any more force than you need to the anchor. And this is a Utah desert skill that's pretty important. And yeah. So the question is, does this mean no extending webbing to the edge on high rappels? Um, uh, well, let me give you the classic Rich Carlson answer. It depends. Uh, you have a couple things to consider there. And certainly you want to retrieve the rope so it can't be captured back behind the edge. So yeah, sometimes you need to extend the webbing over the edge, and at least the last person gets to do a little bit of a rodeo start there. But it's usually only the last person. What are the best ways to retrieve your rope? Just the standard ways we usually do. Um, Beater block versus fiddlestick. I am uh, I'm dubious of using fiddlesticks on long rappels. Partly because the weight of the rope makes the fiddlestick much harder to pull. And the fact that people are on the rope for a long time makes the knot tighter and makes the fiddlestick hard to pull. So on long rappels, you almost always have enough real rope in shorter ropes to do just do a pull through. And to me, that seems like that is a much more reliable system than doing a fiddlestick, unless the fiddlestick seems to be what's going to work best there. And I've done those too, when the anchor was a long way back from the edge or something. What thickness of rope do you recommend for bigger rappels? I recommend, well, where we've gotten with that is you bring the lightest rope you can for the 300 footer, because you're going to carry it all the way through the canyon and you're going to use it once. So that means you're using the smallest rope of the day on that one big rappel. And out here, usually we use ropes that are 8 mil, 8.3, 9 mil is a fat rope out here in the desert. Mostly people are using thinner ropes than that. Are there preferred self-belay backups for long rappels? Auto block below, VT above. Oh my God. Uh, I've ranted on this many times. The some people like the VT above. I have never really tried to use it. There's a problem with doing a backup above. If you lose control, you're not going to let go of your upper hand. You're going to hold on to that. So maybe the VT is sensitive enough that it would overcome your whole gripping that. So that means that your backup needs to be below your rappel device. And then that limits your ability to do other things with it, like add friction on the device. So my preferred self-belay backup is to pay extra special attention to what I'm doing and have a bottom belay. When you hang your pack underneath you, is there certain lengths you should hang it at? Well, I put it. I like to put it the length of my leash plus the length of one of these yellow slings. So that's twice 24 inches. You don't. I want it. I want it below my leg, but not. It doesn't need to be super low. The longer it is, the more likely it is to get tangled in the rappel rope. So you want to keep it kind of up close to you. What's the longest rappel you're comfortable using a fill stick on? Oh, I'm very comfortable doing 200s. We've done a couple 300s. with it, but partly is that my slither rope and some other ropes are really soft, and sometimes they're hard to release on the fiddlestick. They over tighten pretty easily. So I still consider pull throughs to be probably the better way to go on those. Do you use pull cords on rappels? These days I haven't used the real pull cord very much at all. We carry the am steel and the fiddlestick for um, as kind of our third length of rope for a backup, pretty much at any time, and we use them on rappels where it makes sense, which is probably not more than half of them, depending upon the canyon. But when you're doing heaps, for instance, you have enough rope to use real rope for the pull side. And the advantage is that that means nobody needs to rappel with those ropes in their pack. So, uh, so yeah, you usually have enough. Knowing you might have to climb back up, what does your preferred ascending setup look like? Well, I don't think that's within the scope of our thing today, but what I use is this is my setup. Micro traction, not a nano traction, and a Petzl basic. Nice thing about these is I don't hardly ever use them. They're light enough to carry in the pack pretty much all the time. And they last a really long time, but they are really expensive these days. So, and they ascend reasonably well. Speaking as not a caver, they ascend reasonably well. Cavers are like, yeah. Anyways. Let's see.
Like we got one more question and then we can wrap this up.
Question, are you typically using a contingency and single strand for all repellers on the big repels, then last person double strands? Absolutely not. So if we were in a waterfall, we would definitely have two 300-foot ropes and set up a contingency so we could lower. But that's not what we're doing here. Um, uh, in Utah dry canyons, we rarely use contingency anchors. Some people use them a lot. I've if you're not in a waterfall, you don't have the incredible time problem that you have. So that you have time to do a conversion or do other rescue techniques if someone gets stuck. So contingency is not required. If you're bringing beginners, you should not be bringing them on a 300-foot rappel. And rappelling double strand is definitely a big problem. Part of it is that our systems, our ropes and our devices are set up almost entirely for going single strand. They tolerate double strand, but they're not good at double strand, and you don't have a lot of options as to what you can do with the friction. So, and maybe that's a wrap, so to speak.
Well, that was very informative. I even learned some stuff and different thought processes to go back to lay some really good foundations. So thank you so much. That was all Tom's time. He did all those videos to do this presentation. I popped a link to Tom's store below if you are thinking about those knee pads to help with rappelling or any of the things he talked about. He's got a great shop with everything in it. So definitely go check that out. And with this presentation, we actually maxed our participants. So doing a live drawing will be way too time consuming. So I dropped a link for those that fill out the join now on the CAC. I'll be putting the names in a random name picker by tomorrow, and I will do the free shirt, but we maxed capacity. Tom, did you want to add something?
So I have one more point to make. We had an incident this spring where um, we I rappelled down on one rope, which was my Canyon 8, and it was super fast, brand new. So I told the other guys, use the other rope. We had another 300. So they used the other rope and they dropped that. And when they dropped it, it got a knot in it. It got a tangle in it. And my friend, who will not be named, rappelled down and got stuck on it. So one thing you should do anytime you're rappelling is paying attention to the rope below you. Because if you run down and run into a knot, that makes it really hard to deal with. If you stop 5 feet above the knot, you can just tie off, get both hands free, undo the knot, no problem. But the other was, it was uncomfortable, especially since he was hanging in the middle of the air, spinning around, and it was also windy. So he eventually figured it out, but that was an oops. So just wanted to bring up that one thing. Pay attention. Everything counts.
It really does. This has been
Okay.
helpful. This will be going on to YouTube. We had a max capacity again, Tom, because you are the emperor for a reason. And thank you for your time. Thank you for putting up
Okay.
the presentations and videos. So we'll be doing the t-shirt drawing and getting this up. So thank you so much, Tom. Let's get Christmas shopping on your site or holiday shopping.
Okay. Great.
Hi. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone for coming by.
Thanks, everybody.